everybody. It's Dave here, and we are starting week 2 of our Mock Draft Mondays. And with us tonight, not only do we have the man with the plan, Mr. Jason Brown above me, and of course, Tyler Forness, our draft expert, we now have Mr. Nick Olson to analyze our picks. Let's go, Jason.
All right. That's me, man with the plan. I thought that was going to be Tyler and Nick, but here we go. What we're going to be doing this week, we're making some picks. We're going 4 rounds. We've added Nick into the mix. He is the analytics department. Tyler will represent for the film. They will have to agree on what we do here. So we're going to be getting both sides of things in the draft room. We may have some conversation. Nick may need to do some math on the fly if someone offers us a deal. So let's get this thing going. We are picking for the Vikings. We are still on Draft Network. Let us go.
I don't know if you noticed, but Clifford's joined us tonight, and he asked if we're doing trades, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, baby.
We are. So we're going to fire this thing up. We're going to make things move fast. And let us go. And we're off. So Tyler, what kind of draft are you feeling this time around? You told the folks there's a couple different types of drafts we can do. Talk to us. What are we doing?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jason. There are 3 types of drafts that you can do here in any kind of mock draft scenario. Actually, there's a 4th one, but that's more of just trying to predict chaos. So you can do what you think will happen, what should happen, and what you would do. And I think for this one, let's kind of change it up a little bit. I think we should make this draft what we would do. We have the analytics department in Nick. We have myself in the film department. And let's just be honest with ourselves. Jason, Dave, you guys know what you're talking about too. Let's make these picks how we would build to fix the Minnesota Vikings.
All right. So, Nick, you're here, and you got to go to work right away. We have a trade for our pick. We are being offered by the football team. We are being offered their 4th, pick 120, and a 5th, 159 for pick 14. What are we doing here?
Well, I would think you could counter, because usually teams don't give you their best offer right away. But I'm adding up. So this is a good deal for us by the Fitzgerald Spielberger draft trade value chart, which I think is probably the closest trade chart to what like PFF War would suggest. The best picks, the actual real value of the trades. A lot of teams use like the Jimmy Johnson chart or the Rich Hill chart, and there's some value to be gained in trading back usually by that, because I think teams still are overvaluing earlier draft picks, and they are undervaluing later draft picks. It's one of the things Rick Spielman regularly does. So I think by this, it's probably about fair by the Jimmy Johnson chart, but by the chart of what I would consider the actual value, I think this is a good trade. However, at the same time, nobody evaluates these things in a vacuum. So I'm interested in seeing who's on the board. Is there somebody who we can't miss, we don't want to miss out on, or there are like 5 different guys that we're okay, and if we get any one of them moving back to 19, then yeah, might as well pick up the 4th and the 5th.
So Tyler, as I'm driving this thing here, can we see who's on the board and then go back to this deal?
It doesn't look like you're able to. If you can kind of see through the black, which I'm trying to do right now, as you can really see how beautiful my hair looks today. I think Nick's right. You really do need to see who's on the board. And honestly, just from a historical standpoint,
team, it's their 1st, 4th, and 5th. We can just remember that and go back to them if we want to.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go. Let's see who we got on the board here. And oh boy, aren't we glad that we did. I think maybe we understand why the football team is coming up. We got Kyle Pitts, a fan of many on Vikings Twitter. We got Devonta Smith. Heisman-winning wide receiver from Alabama. We got Trey Lance. I mean, there's some other people here, but do we need to talk about anybody else after these three? I mean, Rashawn Slater is still on the board.
Slater's going to have a lot of fans among the go fix the trenches teams, I think.
Yeah, so that's about it. Those are the 4 players we're going to talk about. So we have those 4 players, and we have the trade back. Tyler, Nick, talk to me.
Well, when you look at the board, there's a couple different ways you can go. If you are sold that Cousins can be the guy and you need to continue to build around him, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be your selection here. You have Kyle Rudolph, who's going to be leaving the team. And Kyle Pitts, in my personal opinion, is the best tight end prospect that we have seen since Vernon Davis came out of Maryland. Now, if you remember Vernon Davis, he was like 6'5", 265, and ran a 4.38. His spark was through the roof. He was like a 99th percentile athlete for the position, and he was just incredible. Kyle Pitts is what Darren Waller is for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's an absolute matchup nightmare. He can play inline. He can play in the slot. He can play out wide. And as long as he doesn't run a 4.7 or 4.8 40, which I'm thinking he's going to run high 4.5s, low 4.6s, I think you're going to really see Kyle Pitts be a dangerous weapon at the next level. And people talk about how his blocking is. Look, he's not David Morgan. He's not going to be a fantastic blocker, but he's going to be willing and he's going to be capable. And if you're drafting a tight end to be a weapon mismatch, then you're going to take him. Now, on the flip side, if you are not sold on Kirk Cousins, you take Trey Lance. There are NFL scouts who think he's better than Trevor Lawrence. And Trey Lance has every single tool in the toolbox that you could ask for. He has a cannon. He has touch. He has accuracy. He has mobility. He's able to read progressions. Now, he has work to do. He is not flawless in these areas, but he has all the talent, and he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't turn the ball over. His only turnover was in his opening quarter against Butler, where he got hit from behind and he fumbled. After that, his entire 2019 season, he didn't turn the ball over one time. And I'm not even counting the game against Central Arkansas this year. It's just kind of a throwaway. This COVID pandemic has made things just weird. Trey Lance can be a perfect fit for this wide zone scheme. He can do everything Kirk Cousins does and a little bit more. So if you're going to go and try and move on from Kirk Cousins, you take Trey Lance and don't hesitate. If your team, I'm going to keep Kirk Cousins, I think you take Kyle Pitts. Devonta Smith still worries me a little bit with that weight. I know he's dominating SEC competition, and he's dominating Ohio State right now as we're talking. But the only guys who have ever succeeded under 175 pounds, they're all burners, and he's just not that. So Kyle Pitts would be my selection here if we're going to go with the keep Kirk Cousins route.
Okay, Nick. So Tyler threw some things at you here. We got potentially drafting a tight end, but oftentimes it's said you're drafting a tight end for their next team because tight ends do tend to take a bit of time to develop at the NFL level. You got Devonta Smith, doesn't have the prototypical size you want. He has the production. He's gone against the top competition. And then, of course, we have the quarterback, where, as you've been telling us for a while now, Kirk Cousins is very good. But does the allure of potentially getting that quarterback in on a rookie deal with all the tools of a Trey Lance, which way do you feel like we should go here?
Yeah, I feel like you've set the table there pretty nicely for me. If you feel like Kirk Cousins is the guy and you have an opportunity to add either of these weapons, Pitts or Smith, I think you gotta jump at either of those because they're both phenomenal prospects. They're both. I'm really surprised both of them fell to us here. I would not be shocked if either of these guys goes in the top 10 or both of them goes in the top 10 on draft night. Pitts, you do have the concern about do tight ends come in and are they going to be able to play right away? And you also worry a little bit about the positional value. But if you think about Pitts, not just as a tight end, but as just like a big X receiver who's also able to block in line, that's kind of what Kubiak and what the Vikings offense they want to be all about is about. They want guys who can block. They want guys who can be in there and add value in the run game. They want guys who can add value in the passing game. And they want guys who can do both, because when you're multiple, then defenses have to respect both. And when you do the boots or when you do the play action, they have no idea what's coming until 1.5 seconds in. So I really like Pitts. I really like Smith. I think Smith is a phenomenal wide receiver prospect who can do a lot of things. He is a little undersized. You worry a little bit about, is he going to stand up over time? But he just does so many things so well, and would be a fantastic addition to the team. Thielen's not getting younger. I think he's going to be 31 next season. Even though we're not a team that necessarily runs a lot of 11 personnel, I think if we could, we would. McVay's system bases a lot out of 11 personnel, and I think Pitts, that's if you want to base out of the 12 personnel, which is basically Pitts as one of your tight ends, is kind of like, even with Herb Smith, that's kind of like 4 wide receivers too. So I think there's an argument to be said for trading down and just seeing if one of these guys falls. We could take that Washington pick and see if one of these guys keeps falling. I do think, though, if I'm standing in for the analytics guy, and not just what Nick would do, because what Nick would do is Nick would probably trade down and see if one of these guys falls. But I do think you take the homeboy, you got to take the Minnesota boy, you take Trey Lance, and even appreciating that, like, I'm a Kirk Cousins guy. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I think he's pretty reliably and consistently a top 10 quarterback. I think he's improved on his biggest weaknesses. At the same time, though, just think back to when Deshaun Watson trade rumors hit the timeline, and you were like, "Holy smokes, I like Kirk, but if I can have Deshaun Watson, I'm taking Deshaun Watson." That's kind of what you're looking for here. Just the chance that Trey Lance is, you hate to compare him to like the next Patrick Mahomes, but he is that unique. He's got that unique arm talent. He's got that unique athleticism. He's basically a running back who can throw the ball. Just a really, in terms of tools, he's like everything you could ask for in a quarterback. And I've seen him projected much higher than 14. So also surprised you took him here. From an analytics standpoint, any of these guys are going to be huge, because whether it's a passing weapon or whether it's a QB, that's basically the most valuable positions in football in terms of because passing efficiency is what drives wins in the NFL at a sustainable level. So I'm happy taking either of these guys. If it's Nick doing it, I would probably trade down and take one of the receivers. Since it's not, I think I'm in agreement that Trey Lance, from an analytical perspective, you can't beat the value of getting a quarterback, especially one with as much upside as the guy here. So,
David, I see you nodding there. So, we have, I guess we have too much agreement so far. Thus far, my film guys love everyone on the board. The analytics guys love all the options here. We got a quarterback. David, break the tie for me. Which of these players do you feel? Because whichever way you go, they're going to agree with you. So where are we going?
Well, since we're doing this the way we want, as we saw over the weekend, there is some disgruntledness supposedly between Zimmer and Kirk Cousins, and we've seen it. Coach Zimmer has only gotten along with 2 quarterbacks, Teddy and Sam, and both of those he loved dearly, and he was involved. You hear stories about how he would sit down and say, "Hey, this is how the defense is looking at you. You got to do this, you got to do that." You don't hear that with Kirk. I'm hoping Trey Lance is that 3rd quarterback he falls in love with and gets in, and we get him, and then we can trade, do whatever with Kirk Cousins, even if Trey Lance sits behind him for a year or so. I'm cool with that. The quarterback is the key to winning the Super Bowl. Matching that up, I go with Trey Lance.
All right, so we're going big on this one. Trey Lance seems to be the pick here. Let's punch it in.
Yeah.
All right, swinging big.
It's like our fans are in agreement. They like it.
Yeah,
there we go.
Commenters are on board too. The other thing about taking Trey Lance, like you would think that like Spielman, Zimmer want to win now, but taking a young rookie quarterback probably buys them time. So it's in their
buys them another year.
But if you have Trey Lance like in the wings or whatever, whether he's starting year 1 or whether he takes a while or whether he's a redshirt rookie, like that gives them some time. Like if they don't make it back to the playoffs next year, but they have a rookie quarterback, then you probably don't want that instability. So I think we could see it. If he happens to fall that far, he might not. But if he does happen to fall that far, I could definitely see it happening.
And what do you think? I mean, it's very far out to look, but let's say you have that 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 year of Kirk Cousins, kind of that bridge year, maybe like the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes type scenario. Given how well Kirk Cousins has played, like what could you see them potentially recouping in a trade for Kirk Cousins if they were to send him somewhere? Like we like to joke about San Francisco, but like what would you see another team potentially giving up to get a quarterback that is as consistently good at what he does as a Kirk Cousins?
The precedent I look to is the Sam Bradford trade. Sam was like a good quarterback. He was, incredible arm talent, but no real pocket mobility. So you see some corollaries there with who Kirk Cousins is. And although Kirk has gotten a little more mobile, I think he's a better quarterback than Bradford was. I mean, Bradford had more arm talent, I think, and that's why Bradford went first overall and Cousins was a fourth rounder. But I think if you look at their skill sets now, Cousins has a little bit better pocket presence. He's a little bit better able to extend plays. He's not, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but he's got some talent there, and he's also got durability. That's a big difference between Bradford. Bradford, even before he had his injury issues in Minnesota, was kind of was repeatedly ran into those issues here. I don't think Cousins does, but at the same time, I think Sam Bradford trade to Minnesota from the Eagles was a bit of a fire sale. Vikings probably overpaid a little bit because Teddy Bridgewater went down 1 week before the season started. So maybe that's, Vikings paid a little bit extra knowing that they had to do something to save the season. But I would think you would probably start the asking price at a first plus for Kirk Cousins if you're looking to move him out. So maybe there's a potential there that, if Trey Lance takes over, you could recoup a lot of the draft capital, because I do think, as much as we like to point out the deficiencies in Kirk Cousins' game, he is a good quarterback, and he's an above-average quarterback, and I think most teams would be happy to have him as their quarterback. He would be an upgrade for a lot of teams. You look at what Sean McVay or what Kyle Shanahan do with guys who I think are not bad quarterbacks, but I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo or Jared Goff. I think either of them would love to have a Kirk Cousins in that system, because I think they could, I think Kirk Cousins could win a Super Bowl with either of those guys. So yeah, I think you could maybe start the asking price at a first rounder, and if depending on injuries, maybe you could get more and go from there.
Okay. So you're back on the clock again. Someone is trying to get us to trade up, Nick. Are we doing any of that in this draft? They want us to come back into the second round, or at this point, like you said, are teams typically overvaluing those earlier round picks, and we're better off kind of seeing what's on the board when we're up to pick, about a dozen or so picks later?
Yeah, so the rule of thumb is that trading up, you're generally not going to get the draft capital back. And that just goes back to what I was talking about, how NFL teams tend to overvalue early round draft picks. And Richard Thaler, a famous economist, actually did a study on this and showed that, if you look at the career approximated value added by draft picks on average at every single slot, NFL teams are overvaluing draft picks. He came out with this study. He showed NFL teams, and they were like, cool, we're still going to trade up for this blue chip guy in the first round or whatever, and ignore second, third rounders or seventh rounders or whatever. So I think the same thing here. You'd probably say, is it worth giving up a sixth rounder just to move up into the second round? The one thing that I will say is I saw that the TCU safety was still on the board. He's probably the best safety in this draft class. And if you want a guy who's going to be the best prospect in the draft class, and is a fit for what the Vikings like, they like to run quarters, which TCU does. And so I think he's a match. He's the best prospect on the board. And if you're assuming we're moving on from Anthony Harris, who's a free agent this season, this would be the opportunity to trade up. The reason against it is I do think there are a lot of other draftable safeties in this draft class, maybe not on that level. So that's the only, if we were to trade up, that would be who I would do it for, understanding that you're kind of, it's in a bit of an overpay. But if we did do it, that's why I would do it.
Okay, so I need a decision. Are we trading up, or are we letting it ride?
If you're getting the top safety, go up. You're only losing a few spots, and the sixth rounder, Spielman's going to have about 8 of those by the time we get there.
I'm willing to take the risk and give up a sixth round pick to go up. 12 spots? But I'll say this: I don't think Trevon Moehrig is going to be that much better than these safeties that you're going to find in the third round. You're going to find a lot of different analysts that are going to have guys like Andre Sisco, Hamza Nasirildeen. You're going to have a lot of guys that are going to be safety one. I think Moehrig is really good, and I haven't given a final grade on him yet, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to be 100% safety one. So if we make this trade, I don't think that he should be 100% the target. I think we should kind of look at the board. But I do think, just from a general overall perspective, and how many guys are going to make the roster, considering we're not going to have a COVID practice squad this year where we're going to be able to stash a Josh Metellus. I think we should really think about giving up a 6th-round pick to move up 12 spots, because that could mean a much better player than a guy you'd be able to get at 76. I think it's worth the risk here.
Okay. So
are we able to look at the draft board again?
I mean, we certainly
that's
can.
the tough part.
We can go look.
Going.
So who do we have? Oh, nope. Soon as I canceled it. So next time we will pause it. The trade is off the board, which is probably the right move anyway, because team no trade ups, all trade backs. And look, somebody would like to trade with us yet again. In this one, they're offering a later 3rd-round pick, an additional 5th-round pick to come up to pick 78. It feels like good value.
Considering what I saw on the board, I actually think this is a really good offer for the Vikings to trade back. I didn't see anything that was really grabbing me as far as I need to get this guy right now. There's a lot of glut in the 3rd round where if you miss out on a guy at 78 and then you get him at 89, it's really not that big of a deal. Take the 5th-round draft capital. Maybe we can flip it and get another 4th-round pick.
Nick, David?
Yeah, looking at the Fitzgerald Spielberger draft chart, this is quite an overpay. I think this is an overpay even for what they would normally offer at this spot. So I would be inclined to accept this one. I did see there were a couple defensive tackles on the board who I think could be maybe potentially rotating in or potentially even be day one starters. So, but considering there were multiple, maybe there's another one left at our next pick. I know we have multiple 3rd-rounders, so. Might be worth just moving down.
There are likely going to be 4 or 5 defensive tackles taken in the 3rd round that it could be day one starters. So even though there's not a top-tier talent, which is honestly what the Vikings have needed since Sharif Floyd's botched knee surgery, there are going to be guys that can come in, step in, and be good starters right away and possibly that developmental piece.
What did you do, Jason? I thought we were going to take
I didn't do anything.
Did we accept that one?
We accepted that one.
Oh, no.
We moved out. Well, we've got another offer.
You got an offer to move back up?
They want us to move back up. I'm going to go ahead and just hop past this one, and we're going to make our pick here in just a moment. So,
all right.
Everyone wants to trade with us all the time. We want to make some picks.
We will not be tempted.
We are not moving up.
Staring at us.
We're moving back.
Stay on the board, Barmore.
This is the point where I would consider trading up. Yeah.
I would have considered that because Barmore was on the board. I love Christian Barmore.
Okay.
We took him last week, even.
We did take him last week. So here we are, a player that Tyler just mentioned, Andre Sisco, Syracuse, still on the board. Tevin Jenkins, Javon Holland, another safety that I've heard people talking about. Walker Little. We took say his name for me, Tyler, because I mess it up every time.
Hamza Nasruddin.
We took him last week at safety.
Honestly, if you do it phonetically, it looks way more complicated. Yeah.
It's just, it's you glance over, it's a long one, it freaks you out for a second, but you're right, it is spelled phonetically. Nasruddin. What positions do you guys want to take a look at here? Obviously, we think that safety is going to be a hole, something that we're going to need to deal with. But we're soft in the trenches here.
I think I saw a guy I want to talk about. And you know what? This name is even harder to pronounce than Nasruddin. It's the Levi kid from Washington. That is a 3 technique that can really be explosive. Scroll up just a little bit.
There he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, you ain't kidding.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let Tyler roll with that.
Levi
one. We need Jacob here for this one.
He is incredibly explosive. He's a great pass rusher. He's got a high motor. And one of my friends, he runs the Husky Hall, which is the fan-sided University of Washington page, and he's got a lot of connections within the program. Look, the kid's the real deal. He is a little raw. He's going to need a lot of technique work. But when you have all those raw abilities and you give him to a guy like Andre Patterson, we've seen what he can do with some of those guys. Now, his hit rate isn't perfect, but we all know that. We saw Scott Critton, who lasted training camp. I think Levi could be that guy to really make the jump. Aleem McNeil is also another guy who's incredibly explosive, especially off the blocks, able to penetrate as a run defender and as a pass rusher. Those two guys, I think, would be a fantastic fit for what we want as a Minnesota Vikings fans, and what we're expecting to play opposite of Michael Pierce. And I think those should be our number one targets. Obviously, you see the safeties, Nasruddin, Holland, Andre Sisco. I want to temper Vikings fans' expectations with a guy like Andre Sisco. The guy is just an interception machine. And let's just be honest, with defensive backs, that's not something that Zimmer prioritizes. He never has. He drafted Mackenzie Alexander, who didn't have an interception since his freshman year of high school. It doesn't matter to him. To him, batting the ball down is just as important as catching the ball. And you can argue the semantics of that viewpoint, but that's just the way it is. I like Andre Sisco, but he's also coming off of a torn ACL that he suffered in October. Something to really consider when you're making it a third-round pick that you are expecting to contribute day one for this team. I would lean towards McNeil or Levi. I'm not even trying to pronounce that name. I'm sorry, Roman. I know you're going to watch later.
Levi-O.
Levi-O. And
Onwuzurike.
There we
go.
go.
We're going to go with that.
Nick's got it.
I would go with one of those guys, and I don't think you're going to go wrong.
All right. Nick, how you feeling about this? Prioritizing the trenches over the secondary? Can we roll with it, given the fact that when we saw what we saw this year for the Vikings, and there seemed to be a handful of safeties left? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, here's the thing. We're picking again in 8 picks. So I think you got to look at the board and just assume you're going to get a defensive tackle here and you're going to get a safety probably later on, unless you want to. I don't know how we feel about Walker Little or somebody on the offensive line or anybody else.
Thank you, other Nick.
Onwuzurike.
Boom.
Okay, but where's the accent? That's the other Onwuzurike. Something like that. Hopefully I'm not making a total fool of myself. I'm happy going to Onwuzurike, even though we have studies showing that defensive tackles probably don't matter very much. It's not a huge deal because they don't generate a lot of pressure, especially compared to edge rushers. And other than that, their contributions in run defense aren't necessarily huge. If you get like a monstrous two-gapper, then maybe that can help you do different things in coverage. But otherwise, these guys are not going to be, and from a PFF WAR standpoint or from an analytical standpoint, the most valuable guys on the team. At the same time, we saw what it was like, how much we struggled with having the Vikings defensive tackles this year after Michael Pierce opted out. So I do get it. It is probably, if you're looking at the roster right now and not looking at like the kicker or the punter, I do think 3 technique is probably, along with guard, the most glaring hole on the roster right now. So yeah, I'm happy picking this one, especially given that we'll probably help out the secondary in just a few picks later.
Nick, are you saying that 3 techniques don't matter?
I'm not. Every position matters. Every position matters. It's all just a matter of how much do they matter in relation to the quarterback and the passing game.
All right. So Levi-O, is that the pick? Are we in agreement?
Let's go with it.
All
Nick,
right.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
See, I think this is one of those conversations, and Nick makes a really good point that they just don't matter nearly as much as corners and edge rushers. But at the same time, you want guys playing those positions that are way, or at least somewhat above replacement level. Like Shamar Stephen is not above replacement level. You could argue he's lower than replacement level. Get an average guy in that position. Get a Tom Johnson. Get somebody who's capable, and I think you'd be okay. Also, something to monitor. In the national title game, Wyatt Davis is on the ground, the Ohio State guard, and it looks like he might have torn his ACL.
Ooh, that's going to kill his draft stock.
He's crushed. He's grabbing his knee, and he's in a lot of pain. Obviously, it could be something minor, but that's just my initial guess.
That is terrible. That
he
is terrible.
May drop
We don't
from
like to
first
see that.
or second round, third or fourth, and
I mean, if he
it all
hurts
depends
now,
on. If it's just a clean ACL tear, he could still go round 1 and likely round 2 at that point. But yeah, you just don't want to see any kid get hurt right before he's about to cash in. That's just heartbreaking.
It's terrible.
Unless
We
you're
have a
able to pick him up
Spielman
at that
special.
lower round.
No.
On the
As
board.
a fan or as a team, you're excited about the fact that you can get value, but just in the human element, like this kid's not making any money.
Oh yeah, he's got to be heartbroken.
Close.
Yeah,
I'm about to see what it looks like, but we can continue.
What's this trade
right,
from Dallas?
Nick, we got a Rick special on the board here. They're offering us a bunch of 7th round picks. They would like us to move out of pick 99 back to pick 111. And they are offering us a 7th rounder this year and a 7th rounder next year.
Oh, Rick, you take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, so this is actually, if you can believe it, this is actually even better value than the last trade down we got, just because of the fact that, so like looking at the Fitzgerald Spielberger chart, pick 99 is worth 671 points. Pick, what is it, 111? Pick 111 is worth 618 points. So, 75 points or something. A 7th rounder, pick 231 here. A 7th rounder is worth 242 points. So assume a future 7th rounder is worth another 200 points. You're losing 75 points and going down or whatever, and gaining 400 points or whatever in the 7th rounders. I think you consider this, considering how many good safeties are still on the board. If you're really sold on, Andre Sisco or something, I think you can still go for that guy. We're talking about a safety who's probably going to have to play significant snaps his rookie year. You don't want to just grab whoever's left. You probably want to grab somebody who can come in and contribute right away. Zimmer asks a lot of his safeties. He probably plays more coverage shells than pretty much any other defensive coach out there. So I do think it makes sense if you don't want to immediately trade down. And we know that Rick is going to wind up with 1 million 7th rounders anyway. So,
and with this, he's already building for next year, which he loves to do.
I will tell you, the computer would tell you to take this and run away with it. But if you're attached to guys on the board right now, I completely understand getting this guy who is going to be starting for you next year, and not rando in the 4th round.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not attached to anybody at this point where I wouldn't take the extra 2 picks. I don't think there's going to be much difference from a value perspective as far as film grades from 99 to 111. So let's take it, run with it, and maybe we can strike gold. Maybe we can find a Stephen Weatherly who's a serviceable player for 4 years.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Look at this.
We're at
and
that
they
point
say
in
the
draft.
film and the analytics can't get along.
I messed up. I forgot Shaka Tony was still on the board. I boo-booed. Shaka Tony.
Zim did say safeties. I think the exact quote was like, if you were to rank every position, safety probably wouldn't rank very high up there. Which
is the least important position according to Mike Zimmer.
Yeah.
So looking for us to move up, which seems silly. We have a pick.
No way, Don. No way.
So okay, so we're gonna go ahead and decline.
John Elway. What a jokester.
And here we are.
Boom.
It's time for running backs, guys.
This is where I disagree.
All right. So I'll be honest. If you're going to take a running back, this is going to be a fantastic spot for the Minnesota Vikings. We're shooting at 4 4th-round picks right now. So if you're going to take one, this is kind of the sweet spot. Trey Sermon is a fantastic back, big, powerful, fast. No, we don't. But we have a lot of good ones on the board. Him and Chuba Hubbard. So we should at least entertain the conversation for the moment. Kenneth Gainwell is going.
Safeties, though.
I know. Just hear me out. I'm going to divert at some point, okay? So Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis. Think Antonio Gibson. Kenneth Gainwell's in the same mold. He's getting great pass catcher. He's got excellent vision in the open field, and he can run the ball. And I think he would be a really fun gadget guy, but I'm also going to be honest. I don't think the Vikings would ever use him properly, so I don't want to take him. Spencer Brown, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Dylan Radunz out of North Dakota State, who was kind of widely praised this summer as a potential like top 15 pick as an offensive tackle. Obviously, with summer scouting, all that stuff kind of subsides as the year goes on. Spencer Brown, by some, is thought of as the best FCS tackle. I think he is an excellent prospect. That's a direction we can go here, but just a little bit down on the board. I'm ignoring those top two safeties because I saw a guy who absolutely thrived at Texas in his freshman year in Caden Stearns. Now, he kind of had the Grant Delpit effect. This year, he did not play that well. But then again, Texas is, in fact, not back, and they just have not played very successful football over the course of the last couple of years. Stearns has had to kind of play overcompensation ball and really protect a lot of the guys in front of him. He's missed tackles, but the athletic profile is there. He has excellent production at the University of Texas. This would be my guy if we were selecting here right now. Obviously, I'll let Nick kind of take his turn and kind of process through the board and see what he thinks. But if I'm taking anybody right now, it's Caden Stearns out of Texas.
Okay. Nick.
So we've got a number of draft picks up ahead. We're picking what at 108 or something here, and we've got 115 coming up. We've got 121 coming up. So we got a lot of fourth rounders to play with here. If Caden Stearns is our guy at safety, I feel like we might be able to prioritize other positions. I don't know. Right now we're staring at I don't even know who our left guard is right now. If we assume we're not cutting Riley Reef, which we very well might be just because of the fact that we're hard up against the cap and we save over $11 million, I think, if we cut him. We're looking at Drew Samia back at left guard. So if you want to avoid that that disaster again, it might be worth investing in the offensive line here. That's also not an analytically sound thing, but I'm just sort of wondering which positions are scarce. It looks like there's still a lot of great safeties on the board. Do we want to invest in any other positions? Which guys might go between now and 115, I guess, is what I'm wondering about.
So Tyler, here's who we got from a tackle perspective. Anyone here that you would potentially look at as someone to convert from tackle to interior?
Scroll down just a little bit. Is Alaric Jackson out of Iowa still on the board? Yes, he is. All right. Alaric Jackson, before last season, was getting more hype than Tristan Wirfs. Right? And he's an Iowa guy, offensive lineman. Iowa players, as kind of like a joke in the scouting community, they just don't bust. They're just good players, especially in the trenches. I don't know what they're doing down in Iowa, but that corn-fed beef, it's really, really working. So he's a guy I'm going to want to look at in about like 2 picks. Good tackles that you don't think are going to succeed at tackle at the NFL level translate to guard really well, and he has the size and ability to do so. Spencer Brown at offensive tackle, I kind of already went over. I think he could be a really good selection here, but considering what all we're looking at on the board, I'm going to want to take Caden Stearns, and I think I'm going to want to stick to my guns there. And if Nick's good with it, that's my guy right now.
Okay, so he's on the table, Nick. He's pounding the table for his guy. Is that where we're going? Caden Stearns?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, it's all about the passing game and the passing game efficiency. So that means defensively, it's all about coverage. And if you can get a guy who's a safety who can come in and play in Zimmer's scheme and contribute in coverage, that's as valuable as you're going to get on the defensive end.
Okay, well, we're back
Here we
again. Once again.
I will let Nick take this one. I need to run really quick, and I'll be right back.
Okay, so Nick, talk to me here. You mentioned the trenches last go-around.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to doubling up at safety. I do think Harrison Smith is getting long in the tooth. Anthony Harris presumably will not be back, considering the fact that the Vikings don't have a lot of cap space to work with unless the cap comes in a lot higher than we expect it to. So, and last year, I think we really learned a lesson about doubling up when we took Jeff Gladney in the first round, and a lot of people thought, oh, the Vikings are all set at cornerback. And then third round comes around. They try and trade up for a defensive tackle. The trade falls through. They end up taking Cameron Dantzler, and Dantzler is their best draft pick outside of Justin Jefferson. So I really think there's, especially right now when you got a 31, soon to be 32-year-old safety playing opposite Anthony Harris, who's a free agent. You have multiple holes here. I would not be opposed to taking another one of these safeties. Elijah Moore is an option. He's a great player. There are a lot of good players still on the board. I know. There are a lot of good safeties, and Elijah Molden's still on the board. So if we want more coverage, guys, if we want to double up there, I think we could take. And there's still a lot of good safeties. If we want to go best player available, and marrying that with fit, it's probably, I think, Spencer Brown at this point. I think a lot of Vikings fans would probably not be very happy with the fact that we're midway through the fourth round and we have provided zero answers at the offensive line. Is it a little duplicative getting another tackle when we've got Brian O'Neill and Ezra Cleveland and we still haven't decided what we're doing with Riley Reif? Maybe. I don't know if Brown can kick inside the guard, but I do think in terms of what we need, that's probably the best answer. But at the same time, if we want to double up at coverage, I'm happy going there too. Or if we want to pick one of these receivers, I do think the fact that we passed on some good ones in the first round there, it might be time to start dipping into the well there.
Dave, what are your thoughts? And I know you tend to lean trenches. Are you going to stay firm on that?
No, I will stay firm on that. And plus, we're doing the offense, defense thing in this draft. It's time for offense. I go Spencer Brown. I'd rather have 4 tackles and 2 that I can throw in a guard than a crappy guard. I don't think Riley Reif's going to stick with us because we're going to need cap space. We're not as bad as other teams, but we are going to be in hurting status. So I go with Spencer Brown.
Tyler,
do you think he can play guard?
I'm not 100% sure if he can play guard, but I can tell you this. Ezra Cleveland was a capable guard. He was slightly above average according to PFF at the position. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of drafting left tackle and moving him to right guard, but he did prove that he can be capable there as a rookie, and then I think you can really see some progression moving forward. So if you like Spencer Brown here and you think that you can put him at tackle and he can be a good player, now there is precedent for guys being drafted around this spot to become really good players. Arguably the best left tackle in the NFL, David Bakhtiari, was a 4th-round pick out of Colorado for the Green Bay Packers. So it's not unheard of to see a guy like this be able to succeed at the next level. I think at the same time, tackle is one of those core positions that you need to hit. You need your tackles, you need your weapons, you need your quarterback, you need your corners, you need your edge rushers. Fill in the gaps with other players after you really secure those positions. I think drafting Spencer Brown here, considering I believe we still have 2 more picks in this round, I think is going to be a smart move. I did see there was a really good corner in Elijah Molden out of Washington that was still on the board. We still have my guy Alaric Jackson, who we can slide into guard. And Vikings fans need to remember this as well. We are doing mock drafts to try and just engage and that kind of get a feel for where some of these guys are going to go. But free agency hasn't happened yet. And I really think the Vikings are going to massively address that interior offensive line in free agency. And we're not going to need to worry about it when it comes to the draft nearly as much as we're thinking about it right now. So I don't feel bad that we're quote unquote ignoring it, because it's going to be taken care of, in my opinion, by the time the draft comes around.
We're back again, gentlemen. Pick 121. We got some safeties.
Your boy Elijah Molden got sniped. So
got some safeties.
Apparently,
got some running
backs.
We
didn't have enough 4th rounders. We only had 4.
Talk to me. Which
Rick,
way are we going here?
All right. Do me a favor, Jason. Let's take a look at the wide receiver position. Who are we looking at here? because I think this is kind of a sweet spot for wide receiver. Justin Ross out of Clemson, I think we can kind of scratch that off. I don't think he's coming out. He got diagnosed with a really bad neck injury that he had reconstructive surgery on. I think it was like the C5 and C4 discs. So I think he's going to return to Clemson because he's going to have something to prove. Going into the year, he was a projected wide receiver 1. Like, that's how good he is, and I don't think he's going to settle for being a 4th-round pick. Anthony Schwartz out of Auburn, there's rumors that he could break the 40-yard dash record at the combine. He's more of a gadgety slot kind of receiver. I don't necessarily know if the Vikings are going to value that. I would really like the Vikings to take a guy like that, but I would prefer they do it a little earlier with Kadarius Toney, because Toney has the ability to run really crisp and just filthy routes that we saw a lot with Stephon Diggs. And I think the Vikings will prioritize a receiver like that when you consider everything included. Now, I know a couple people in the comments have talked Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, and I love Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's kind of best comp, and ever since I heard it, I can't unsee it, Antonio Brown. Now, we all know, like, Antonio Brown, the human being, like, that's a whole different discussion. Antonio Brown, the receiver, fantastic player that wins through contact, great, crisp route runner, excellent with the ball in the air, adjusting to it and winning through contact against the defender while trying to high point the football. I think if you're going to go receiver, Elijah Moore is probably going to be your best bet. And then Jalen Darden, one of my guys, Devin, out in North Texas. Devin loves Darden, and watching some of his film, he's a really, really good player. But I think you can likely grab him in round 5. And I don't think I've seen some people put Elijah Moore as wide receiver 5. I would be surprised if we see him here around 4 when the draft comes around. And that would kind of be where I lean. And especially with how these receivers are in Minnesota, Thielen and Jefferson can play the X, Y, and the Z. Get whoever you think is the best player and slide him in there. And I think Elijah Moore can kind of do some of the similar things that Thielen and Jefferson do. You can move him all throughout the formation. He's going to play a lot like that Antonio Brown style. And I think he could be electric with the ball in his hands once he's in the open field. So that's where I lean.
Boom. Nick, what are your thoughts? Elijah Moore?
Yeah, I mean, anyone comp to Antonio Brown has my ears perked. I know PFF is also really high on him. I think Devonta Smith is their number 1 wide receiver, and I think Elijah Moore might be their number 2 in their grading system. Not necessarily in their draft rankings or whatever, but just in terms of, I think he leads the entire FBS in multiple metrics, right? You know, stats, yards, something, catches, something. So obviously having a monster year. I'm all for bringing someone like that in. And then, you know, like I've been saying, you know, analytics are all about the passing game. Adding another wide receiver would be huge, because right now, Chad Beebe's your 3rd wide receiver. As fun as he is to watch, and as quick, and you know, he does a lot of little things right. I get why they kept him around. Olabisi Johnson is not, you know, a terrible guy, but these are not the guys you want coming in when it's 11 personnel. You know, like game-winning drive. You know, you got to get your receivers out there. You're not going to run the ball. You just got to get passes out there. You need everybody out there who can win you games. That's when these guys are going to be coming in, when you need an upgrade there. So yeah, I'm all for that. If we think you know, I think we got one more pick coming in. If we think this guy, Elijah Moore, might be really safe to stay there at 131, we can look at who else is on the board. But otherwise, totally on board drafting him.
Okay, so what are we feeling? We got some other folks on the board. We're at pick 121. We got 10 picks until our next one here. Are we pulling the trigger on Elijah Moore? David, you're the decider. You let me know.
Go
is
for
there anyone
Moore.
else here that you like more?
Go for Moore. Get that.
Let's do it.
Get that wide receiver that can run routes, and that if Thielen or Jefferson get dinged up for any bit, it's not that big of a loss. And I come from the days of watching 3 deep and loving that. So get that quality wide receiver.
There it is. Oh. I mean, we're definitely not doing that. Why does everyone want us to trade up 1 spot?
Wait, they're trading a 2nd rounder to move up to
No, they would like us to trade a second rounder to move up one spot.
Yeah.
No.
So
Wait, no, wait. It says they're offering. No, forget it. I must have been
They
mistaken.
were offering a second.
That's what I saw.
A second for for 2022.
Yeah,
Next 2 seconds.
Honestly, I think we should have projected it anyways.
They're the only team dumb enough to do this. They gave the
we've
Packers
seen the
free
Saints
first
make some
rounder
really dumb trades. Like they traded us a 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th to get Adam Troutman, and I like Adam Troutman. I think he's going to be a good tight end in this league, but that team is going to be like $80 million over the cap, and they traded.
They're going
to
be bad for years.
Which is the depth. I think they don't care if they're going to be bad for years because they're putting all their eggs into Drew Brees winning one more Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But I would.
All right.
Let's see.
So we're here. We're being offered a 5th.
Yeah. Move 2
for
spots.
our pick. Move back 2 spots.
Take it.
That's easy money.
Okay.
Tight end.
We're picking. We're up again.
Who we
We got
got?
wide receivers selected. Get it all. Yep.
Okay.
If you
They
pick
got some good
Sermon,
picks
Ted
on
would be
board.
happy.
Huh?
I'm going to bang the drum here for a couple guys, and one of them makes sense and one of them doesn't. The first one's Darius Washington, safety out of TCU. He plays opposite Trevon Moehrig, who Nick kind of already talked about earlier. Darius Washington has all the tools, but he's 5'8", and that's why he's still available here at the end of round 4. I really like what he does from an awareness standpoint. I think he's also incredibly athletic, and he can do a lot of the little things, and he's going to play feisty. If you remember Bob Sanders back in the day for the Indianapolis Colts, he wasn't the biggest guy, but he played way bigger, and I think Darius Washington does that. The second one, we're going to talk running backs again, and it's Kylan Hill, the Mississippi State guy. I think Kylan Hill is my favorite player in this entire draft class. He's a really physical runner. He has the ability to utilize his own scheme in the one cut. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, as he showed in the Mike Leach air raid. And he just runs with this attitude where he's just going to run you over, stare you down, and he's going to Allen Iverson step over to Ron Lou. This is the kind of guy he is, and I will pound the table for him at this spot because, let's be honest, if you're drafting in round 4, you can afford, especially with all these picks, to take a guy. I don't need a running back, but Madison's not going to be here in 2 years. Mike Boone is probably not going to make the roster at some point just because he's a special teamer and he's about to enter his, 4th or 5th year in the league.
Right.
I think you got to think about Amir Abdullah because you don't want to keep paying him over $1 million when you can just pay a guy on a rookie deal who you're going to pay anyways. I think Kylan Hill would be a really good option for that, and I think he'd fit well in the scheme. And I just love the kid. So those would be the 2 guys that I look at really hard right now.
All right, Nick. We almost got diametric opposites here. We have, we got the safety and that value, and the 3rd string running back. I don't know which way are we going here.
Yeah, you're giving me an option between a cover guy and a running back. Analytics are pretty clearly going to favor the cover guy there.
How's the board for edge guys?
Oh yeah, that's true. We do need edge help. I don't know. Maybe they'll solve that in free agency, but we haven't taken any edge guys yet. So.
Oh, there are some good players here still on the board. Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma is a kind of a good game wrecker style. He plays a really physical game and can really bend off the edge too. Malcolm Kuntz out of Buffalo was a production machine. I think his upside is just a little bit limited in comparison to other guys. But at the 4th round, it's okay to take production over traits because it's a 4th round pick. You're either going to get high production, low ceiling guys, or you're going to get high ceiling, low production guys who have red flags. That's just kind of what you're looking at in round 4. So those 2 guys I think would be really good fits for this team. I kind of mentioned him earlier. If he's on the board in round 4, Shaka Toney, I think is not going to end up being in round 4 once this draft kind of settles down because he's going to test off the charts at the combine. And I think he's a guy you can maybe get in round 3 or with a slight trade up. And those are some names to really keep an eye on a long term for Vikings fans, because I think they can be difference makers.
So are we coming back around on edge, or are we going safety, or are we going with third string running back?
Fourth string. Put some respect on Mike Boone's name.
I understand the value's not there, and I understand what the analytics say, and quite frankly, I agree. I just absolutely, unabashedly love Kylan Hill, and I want him on every single team that I ever cheer for.
I mean, that's fair.
I think you got to double up on safety. Like I said before, Smith's not getting younger. Sometimes it's smart to double up on positions because, like with Gladney and Dantzler, you never know which guy's going to hit. So I think this one, it makes a lot of sense from the value and from the fit and the need perspectives.
Absolutely. And I'm in agreement with you, Nick. I think Ardarius Washington even might be able to come down and play a little bit of slot too. He is undersized. And what I talked about on the Skull Search that dropped last week with Arif Hassan, like they have these measurables that they want to hit. They have size requirements. They have athletic testing requirements.
Are we picking again? Like 5 picks
We are
later?
up once again.
So we own every fourth rounder.
We still have Ronnie Perkins on the board. Kuntz is still on the board. Ellerson Smith.
Oh, hey, look at that. Is that Kylan Hill?
Yes.
He's a running back.
What are those? So, David, you're the one who reminded us here. Which way you leaning here? Are we going edge?
You got to go edge.
We making Tyler happy with Kylan Hill, or are we going into the trenches here?
Got to go edge unless we've solved some of these issues in free agency ahead of time. Got to go edge.
Okay.
Yeah,
so Tyler,
I'm in agreement. I love Kylan Hill.
Which of these edge players do you like the most?
Which of these guys are going to be the Andre Patterson types?
Yeah, I'm not sure either one of these guys are going to be Andre Patterson types, to be honest, as far as just this incredible athlete that was just raw. But I would take Ronnie Perkins here. I really like what he's able to bring to the fold. And just moving forward, sometimes you have to go kind of against your norm. The hit rates for some of these hyper-athletic guys just hasn't been great. Take a guy who's highly productive with just a slightly lower ceiling, and maybe you can get some early production out of him, especially because we have DJ Wanham, who they really did view as that high-upside athlete coming out last year.
Okay, so Ronnie Perkins it is. And we've made it all the way through. Let us recap what we've done here in the first round, coming out swinging. Really, this is the pick. We make this. We're good for the rest of the draft. It doesn't matter. Hometown kid, quarterback coming in.
Defines the whole thing.
Defines the whole thing. Trey Lance. Then we go to the trenches. Our man, Levi. What was it, Nick?
Onwuzurike.
Boom. Next up, we got Tyler's man, Caden Stern, safety from Texas. We hit Spencer Brown. What Tyler was saying, best FCS tackle prospect in this entire draft. Maybe he's playing outside, potentially kicking in. Who knows? Can't have enough tackles on the roster. Then we get Elijah Moore. The analytics love him. Ardarius Washington, other safety from TCU, short but can play. And last up, we get another edge in here, Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma. And we've made it through 4 rounds. We had all the fourth rounders. Every last one of them belonged to us, but we made it. Tyler, any last words as you're looking at our haul here? What do you think?
I think we did a really good job overall. I like that we addressed the wide receiver position somewhat early while there's still a lot of depth. I think Elijah Moore fits in really well with what the Vikings want to do. And honestly, we, for the most part, took one of the best players available, and we still were able to get positions of need. And I think that's going to be a common theme with all these mock drafts that we're going to do here on the YouTube for Climbing the Pocket. You're going to get a lot of BPA, and they're going to fill needs. And that you really can't ask for anything more out of a draft class than being able to fulfill both of those at the same time. Because we've seen so many first-round picks for this team over the course of the last 20 years where they're forcing it. Like Troy Williamson, oh, we just traded Randy Moss. We need to take a wide receiver right away.
I don't want to talk about that. I'm not sure what you're
I
talking
was
about.
at that draft.
North Turner wanted an X receiver, so they took Laquan Treadwell, who got bullied by 5'11" Vernon Hargraves in college. Like, I hated that pick from the get-go. Christian Ponder, another one. Don't force it. Let the board come to you.
Why are you doing this to us?
Yeah, I'm about to say.
We just had a great draft.
I was
We
so
picked
happy.
Trey Lance. I don't want to talk about all this, Tyler. I want to be happy about what we just did.
But that's my point. We didn't do those things, and we ended up feeling really good about this mock draft because we let the board fall to us, and that's what the Vikings, for the most part, have done over the past few years. They've kind of let the board fall to them, taking guys that moved back in a really calculated manner, and I think we did a really good job maximizing value and need in this draft.
All right, Nick, what are your final thoughts?
You know, I'm still a little sad that we passed on Devonta Smith. He's up to 215 yards and 3 touchdowns right now at halftime. So, you know, it's like Justin Jefferson's performance in the bowl game last year, where he had 4 touchdowns in whatever the first half. Yeah. So, but I think from an analytics perspective, you love this. You got a quarterback. You got one of the top quarterbacks too. Not a guy you reached on. He's the 4th quarterback taken, but he might have the most upside, the biggest tools, the best arm, and some of the best athleticism of anybody there. So that gets you really excited. It gets you excited to see, you know, the cover guys he picked up multiple of them, had multiple needs there. He picked up a wide receiver who I think can contribute, and then you filled in some holes, plugged some holes in the trenches, which you know, from an analytics perspective, you don't necessarily need Aaron Donald. You don't necessarily need you know, Brandon Scherf or whoever. You know, those guys certainly help. But just having guys who are not Drew Samia, that's the key right there.
Yes.
A bumper replacement level player.
Dudes, you don't exactly. So we're plugging a couple holes. Hopefully, you know, we get some guys who can come in and contribute. So I'm pretty excited. And also, let's not forget, we got a lot of value by trading down and picking up some extra picks later on in the draft that you don't see here, and then next year as well. So that's pretty exciting.
Boom. Well, Dave, we got the trenches. We got your quarterback.
Yes, we did.
I feel like
and that
you're
makes me the
happy.
happiest. Yes.
So bring us home. Wrap it up, Dave.
Well, this is week 2. We pulled in, what is that, 7 players? And the future looks bright with this draft. And we will go at it again next week on Monday. But in the meantime, you'll join us for various Climbing the Pocket Network shows on this channel throughout the week. We're still hashing out our off-season schedule. But as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Vikings! Skull!
Play the music.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skull, everybody.